So lesson 38, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. Your holiness reverses all the laws of the world. It is beyond every restriction of time, space, distance, and limits of any kind. Your holiness is totally unlimited in its power because it establishes you as a son of God, at one with the mind of his Creator. Through your holiness, the power of God is made manifest. Through your holiness, the power of God is made available, and there is nothing the power of God cannot do. Your holiness, then, can remove all pain, can end all sorrow, and can solve all problems. It can do so in connection with yourself and with anyone else. It is equal in its power to help anyone because it is equal in its power to save anyone. In today's exercises, we will apply the power of your holiness to all problems, difficulties, or suffering in any form that you happen to think of, in yourself or in someone else. We will make no distinctions because there are no distinctions. In the practice periods, close your eyes and then search your mind for any sense of loss or unhappiness of any kind as you see it. So in applying, in the situation involving X, in which I see myself, there is nothing that my holiness cannot do. Or, in the situation involving X, in which she sees herself, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. So those were my favourite bits, selected bits from lesson 38. And so the way I sort of would frame it is, in my holiness, where I'm not in any form of identification with the limited I, that and from my own experience I was sharing, there is infinite light, love and power made available. Now you could say that one is getting more close, as I see it, more closer to God unmanifest as opposed to God manifest. But as you release the ego, you're tapping into that power within the manifest, or within the illusion, if you could say, from that pre-manifest Godhead. There is no duality. But as thought emerges, and as duality emerges, and separation emerges, but then it's like anyone within the illusion, the collective illusion, as they release their ego, and great power and miracles can happen within the manifest, within the illusory separate world. And I think that's, most people are familiar with the various saints and the miracles that happen around them. And in India, what's described as the cities, where certain enlightened teachers, various types of miracles tend to happen in the presence of these people who have let go of their identification with the small I, the limited I. So, I mean, it's of practical benefit. You could say, of course, an enlightened teacher wouldn't bother doing it, but while there's still an I there, there's practical. So the holiness can reverse, the laws of the illusory world, of the separate I that believes in horrors and believes in suffering. So that can be, and that was experienced in the case of myself. Various horrors and illnesses disappeared, and so that was quite. Not having gout attacks or or being on a machine or using walking sticks was quite pleasant. And so your holiness is totally unlimited in its power because it establishes you as a son of God. Through your holiness, the power of God is made manifest. And that for me is what I was sharing before. It's like the Heisenberg principle, and as Hawkins described it, is like, well, a scientist is not a saint. A scientist is just someone with a normal ego. So when they watch some atoms, they can see that the atoms are shifting between waves and particles. But that's just, what if a saint, or what if Jesus Christ was to witness something? So when the limited I has dissolved, then immense power would be made available within the manifest world, or the dualistic world, or within the illusion. And now, it's something that in my first few years, as I shared before, that I wasn't really thinking the course of doing. I was just applying it to my own stuff. But then, as I said, with my mother's edema, I found I had an intuition to do it, and her edema left her within a week. So that was quite profound. So it can be done. It seems that there's great power in just clearing it out of others you see in suffering as well, from my experience. I think with all of these things, as Hawkins describes, it's if there's karmic permission. So it's not necessarily for the limited I can do what it wants. I mean, if there's karmic permission, these things are allowed. Mm. So, okay, so this is a beautiful, and there's two aspects, so I'll do it with both. So in applying the lesson, anyway, we'll be doing this, we'll read it together, but you know, we can do it like in all the situations involving myself. So in this situation involving my poor eyesight, in which I see myself, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. And in this situation involving my mother, in which she sees herself with heart failure, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. So there is one aspect where I can do it on self, and that's beautiful, I thought.
Yeah,
that's very, very beautiful. For another human being, in the situation involving my mother, it can be anyone else, in which she sees herself suffering from heart failure, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. So that's a very beautiful application of that. Yeah, about 15, 16 years ago, I was working in the stock market, and I also had food addiction as well, and workaholism. So I was very, very driven. So I had a very, very crazy head, basically. And life was like a huge roller coaster, it seemed, for you can call it my, well, you could call it the ego. And it was a huge roller coaster, and sometimes it would be extremely happy, and then quite often it would be in the depths of despair. And then I had, all of a sudden, and I think it was kind of a mystical thing. I was on an airplane back from New York, and I was working in the stock market, and all of a sudden my legs started to swell up, which is kind of unusual. I mean, I was very overweight, but to suddenly get your feet swell up as a 30-year-old man is a bit unusual. Anyway, it was I was diagnosed with kidney failure. I was taken to the Royal Free Hospital, and I, you know, looking back now, I see it was a very important time, because it was like my old self had been so driven by external things, money, food, all the other things that the ego tends to be really, really attracted by. And then I had suddenly this big problem. You know, I was having kidney failure, and it looked like I was facing death. I mean, I was working in the stock market, but my background was, I mean, I did a degree in biochemistry, so I knew about a fair amount about medicine. And so the doctors weren't sure what had caused a 30-year-old man to suddenly have acute kidney failure, you know, in the span of what seemed to be 24 hours. Can you lose 70% of your kidney function in 24 hours? Like, for most people, when they're older, it's a gradual decline, not a very sudden, like, swift thing. So they were like taking lots and lots of blood, and they didn't know what was causing such an acute decline, and so it was like I was facing death, and that was the thing. It was like my ego's grip on, you know, being the center was finally loosened by some grace, and the first spiritual experience occurred, and that one was like a heavenly timeless peace. Heavenly, timeless, beautiful, blissful peace. And I actually heard a voice, actually, for me, say, find a spiritual solution. And that then led me to a guy called Hans, and he was in another spiritual group. I was going to all these spiritual groups, and Hans gave me said, watch this DVD. And I put the DVD in the DVD player, and I had another spiritual experience, and the person speaking was a man named Dr David R Hawkins, who's also a teacher of enlightenment, and also so that was the next one. I knew he would be one of my spiritual teachers. Also, Hans said, there's a man that lives in Brixton named Muji, and you should go and see him, you see. And in the beginning, I was quite resistant. I thought, that doesn't sound like a name I want to go and visit. It's just, yeah, so I thought, based on that at the time, I thought, I'm not going to, I can't be bothered. So you guys go ahead, and I'm not going. So I was continuing to go to this group, and he had given me the DVD with Hawkins. I had the spiritual group, but I refused to take his advice on that. So, but then again, you know, all the members of the group were going, and one of them, Brian, said, you know, he's amazing. You have to come along. You know, we're all going in the car again. So I said, okay, I'll come this time. So it took a lot of persuading before I would even go. But then when I went there, funny enough, I mean, he was giving everyone hugs, and I got a hug from him, and it's like I had kidney failure, and it was like I felt a tingling sensation in my kidneys. You know, so it was. So I knew then. I felt from a kind of a spiritual knowing from within. Yes, you know, he's the truth. I need to be with him. And so those were my two prime teachers. So yes, there is something. I mean, I sort of see it as like the Kundalini. When you feel something that is truthful, you know, there's some kind of spiritual igniting that occurs, and I definitely had that with as the Hawkins DVD was given, and I watched this man, and with Muji as well. You know, in his presence, the huge inner spiritual recognition of the truth. So with you know, and now Hawkins said something very, very interesting. How did I come to become so? Because I love Muji. Muji is one of my teachers with Self-enquiry, which I've had. I was very, very fortunate, you know, to be able to have a one-to-one session with him at some point, and that was when I had the one-to-one. That was I had been to satsangs quite regularly, but I had so much terror of seeing Muji just alone in a room, just me and him, and it was like the threat of the death of my ego. You see, the death of the limited small self. So on the day, I think psychosomatically I had an inflamed gout attack in my feet, so that my feet was extremely swollen and painful, and you know, the voice was going, well, you just have to tell him you can't come. You see, but you know, some grace somehow took me there, even though something within me was resisting. And at that point, I was going to his satsangs. I'm so blessed now, I can see, because he has huge audiences now. But at that time, it was just a small room, and 20, 25 of us. Everyone had easy access. In fact, you could just ask as many questions. You could get hugs from him. You could talk to him. It was a great. I was blessed with that opportunity. But anyway, faced one to one, there wasn't fear of being in a satsang in the room of people, but to be alone and to have that inquiry. And so he said to me, I said to him, look, with the self-inquiry, the best I've come is I know that there is a witnesser, you know. And I said, like, oh, it's a witnesser. And then he asked me, is there someone behind the witnesser? Is there like a little man there or something? And at that point, you know, all I could say is, and you can't use words accurately to describe it, but it's like the white light spiritual experience. There was no world, there was no Muji, there was no room, there was no thought. It was just like infinite love, infinite power, infinite light beyond description. And actually there is one phrase in the Course in Miracles that kind of describes it's the best thing. When I read it, it was like that really resonated. It's like you don't know what the truth is. If you were to experience the truth, it would be, imagine the happiest moment you've ever had in this life and times it by 100 and 1,000 again. And that would be what it would be like to experience the truth. And when I read that's how I would describe the white light spiritual experience. Immense power, light and love. No duality, no this or that, no world, no thought. None of that exists. And then it seemed that then a thought did emerge. And in that emerging of a thought, something was identified with that thought. And then suddenly it was like back in the room. And there was Muji, but now it was a state of absolute bliss and joy, and everything was technicolor, everything was beautiful. Quite miraculously, well, the gout attack, the huge inflammation, I didn't feel a thing, gone from recognition. And I walked, when he told me to leave, it was the body was walking outside as if nothing was wrong with it. So it had, in an instant, all the pain, all the information, there was no recollection of it. And the day, going in was dark, and the day afterwards was just like technicolor, a summer's day. So the immense thing of having that ego filter removed for a short period of time was an immense spiritual experience. However, why the Course in Miracles, and why such a huge, I had such a ferocious interest with the Course in Miracles? And that's quite simply because Dr. Hawkins, the hands who had told me about this other and had that spiritual experience with his DVD, Dr. Hawkins had about 20 illnesses. Apart from being an enlightened teacher, he had about 20 illnesses. He had various things, ulcers, he had migraine attacks, he had colitis, he had a lot of them were life-threatening. He had avian flu, which I think in the 1970s was very difficult to treat. So he had all of these illnesses, and he said that when he did the Course in Miracles, all of his illnesses left, you see. And he started and I was listening to this, and he started an attitudinal healing group, like a Course in Miracles group, in America. And people who had cancer, had AIDS, had myasthenia gravis, all those illnesses left them as they were doing the spiritual work. That was enough for me, because it was like I had kidney failure, I had gout, these horrible gout attacks in my feet, I had asthma, I sometimes had to use walking sticks. So hearing that the Course was able to clear all of that out, all that suffering out, was, and I had the spiritual experience, so I felt he told the truth. I had zero doubt that he told the truth. So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to, and he said, his thing, different Course in Miracles teachers say different things, but he said that the lessons, it's very important to do the lessons. He said just really, get cracking with the lessons and do the lessons. And I think he rephrased lesson 14 from A Course in Miracles. Lesson 14 states, God did not create cancer, so it is not real. And he gives another version, but either can be used, which would be, I cancel my belief in cancer. I'm an infinite being subject only to what I hold in mind. So, I was like doing the lessons every day and cancelling my beliefs in kidney failure, in gout, in asthma, and any other negative thought that's being held in consciousness. So it took a few years, but after doing that, suddenly the gout attacks became less and they stopped. And I was taken off the medication, haven't had gout attacks for many years now. And I was prescribed asthma inhalers. And then suddenly, they give you those tests when you go to clinics, how much air you can blow out. Suddenly they said, there's nothing wrong with you any longer. So, you know, we're discharging you from, which is fine with me, we're discharging you from the asthma clinic. And then I was like vigorously cancelling my belief in kidney failure, you know, as well. And God had a different way of doing it. I was hoping it was going to be like the others, but no, I had a transplant. A transplant was offered to me, which was very successful, and with me today, by the grace. So it's like all these illnesses started vanishing. Of course, other areas, miraculous transformations with family, so hence, you know, the two major things that are my loves are the Muji, the Self-enquiry, and the Course in Miracles, and Hawkins' work, because but just because I had so many illnesses, I wanted to get rid of these horrible, debilitating illnesses, so we'll be doing the cancelling of beliefs very, very soon, and it's like, you know, free of the small I, the amount of love and power and light when those limiting thoughts are not held in consciousness. You know, the power of consciousness to heal to things, from my experience, is immense. Is immense, and that was like the huge part of the huge inspiration for this Course in Miracles and Muji group, was that, of course, the enlightenment experience and also the release of the illnesses meant that the miracles. So now we'll be doing, we'll start off with the cancelling of beliefs, and then we'll do a course lesson together. So I'll start, and cancelling of beliefs in a moment. Cancelling beliefs, if you're new, is, this is how I sort of see it. For whatever, if there's any thoughts or belief systems, thoughts can be like, I mean, I talk a lot about illnesses, but they can be anything. Like, you know, for example, in my consciousness, I held a belief I had kidney failure. In my consciousness, I had a belief that I had gout. But equally, I can have beliefs that I'm subject to poverty, or I'm, you know, or I'm clumsy. So any belief can be cancelled. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly share another miracle. Now, this for me is the idea of, for me the ego ascribes causality to the world. What does that mean? It means it describes that this thing that is perceived externally is affecting that thing that is perceived externally. Like the billiard balls, that person caused that person to do something, you see. So for me, understanding Hawkins, and from my own spiritual experience, that for me is like today, anyway, these are my views, of course you can have different views, is that no, that's not so. Everything is because of what's held in consciousness that is occurring. And I think the doorway for that, that a lot of that's in a lot of the spiritual literature, is the Heisenberg principle, which opened up the doorway scientifically, that if an observer observes phenomena, the phenomena change. So they can change, for example, between waves and particles, just by an observer witnessing the phenomena. Now, so that would mean, like, scientists up until then thought that, no, that molecule is causing that molecule to move. But consciousness has no effect on external reality. For me, that's just a scientific doorway. But of course, what about that? I mean, that's like, there's a small movement if a scientist, but a scientist is not spiritually evolved. They've got a pretty strong ego. So what if more of the ego was removed? What if you were, say, a saint like Mother Teresa, and a lot of your ego had been removed? Then that would be, for me, the miraculous. Like there has been many reports of people with their illnesses, cancer or whatever, suddenly disappearing in her presence. So, and that's due to the light, not for, you know, from the ego deflation. So for me, the power is in actually deleting the thoughts that are being held in mind, and then that's where the great healing comes. So we'll be doing the cancelling of beliefs, and The way I like to do it, and feel free to pass or do it in any way you wish to, is I do, for example, I cancel my belief in kidney failure. I'm infinite being subject only to what I hold in mind. I'd like to do for other people, like I live with my mother, so I like to do, for example, she's got heart failure at the moment, so I do things like, God did not create heart failure in my mother, so it is not real. So that's lesson 14 from A Course in Miracles. Okay, lesson 14. I might give some commentary as I'm reading. The idea for today is, of course, the reason why a meaningless world is impossible. What God did not create does not exist, and everything that does exist as He created, and everything that does exist exists as He created it. The world you see has nothing to do with reality. It is of your own making, and it does not exist. The exercises for today are to be practiced with eyes closed throughout. The mind-searching period should be short, a minute at most. Do not have more than 3 practice periods with today's idea unless you find them comfortable. If you do, it will be because you really understand what they are for. The idea for today is another step in learning to let go of thoughts you have written on the world and see the word of God in their place. The early steps in this exchange, which can truly be called salvation, can be quite difficult and even quite painful. Some of them will lead you directly into fear. You will not be left there. You will go far beyond it. Our direction is towards perfect safety and perfect peace. With eyes closed, it says here, think of all the horrors, it says actually. With eyes closed, think of all the horrors in the world that cross your mind. Name each one as it occurs to you, and then deny its reality.
So that's the
Deny its reality. God did not create it, and so it is not real. So say, for example, God did not create that war, and so it is not real. God did not create that airplane crash, and so it is not real. God did not create that disaster, specify whatever it is, so it is not real. Suitable subjects for the application of today's idea also include anything you are afraid might happen to you, or to anyone about whom you are concerned. In each case, name the disaster quite specifically. It says here to name it specifically. Do not use general terms. For example, do not say God did not create illness, but God did not create cancer. So it asks you to be specific. Or heart attacks, or whatever may arouse fear in you. This is your personal repertoire of horrors at which you are looking. So that's quite lovely.
This is good that you read this.
This is your personal repertoire of horrors at which you are looking.
Okay.
These things are part of the world you see. Some of them are shared illusions. Some of them are shared illusions, and others are part of your own personal hell. It does not matter. What God did not create can only be in your own mind apart from His. Therefore, it has no meaning. In recognition of this fact, conclude the practice periods by repeating today's idea. God did not create a meaningless world. The idea for today can, of course, be applied to anything that disturbs you during the day, aside from the practice periods. Be very specific in applying it. Say, God did not create a meaningless world. He did not create, specify whatever it is, and so it is not real. So
God did not create a meaningless world. Is that
the last line is God did not create a meaningless world. He did not create X, and so it is not real. So for me, so that was nice to read again, because it's like this whole world of horrors. This whole world of horrors is a lot of the hell that is experienced is just the thoughts I'm holding in consciousness, which are creating fear and separation and an ugly world. But part of them are shared shared things that. But yeah, for me, they're all part of the collective horrors, and the part of my personal horrors are the beliefs I'm holding in mind. You see, so this lesson is for this lesson. It's not really. You wouldn't really cancel something that's not bothering you or something that you're enjoying.
No, no, I understand very differently, because that makes it very clear. This is about what you're afraid of, what you really.
Yes.
This is your fear of the horrible world. Everything you see in the world that really makes you scared, isn't it? That's like you. Yeah.
Yes.
I like the way he put it, the personal,
Horror.
the repertoire of horrors, something like that.
Yeah. It's a beautiful lesson.
Yeah.
And
But then also that God didn't create a meaningless world. How is that related to this in a way? It's not obvious to me that that would follow, that God didn't create a meaningless world and then you take the horrors. Does that mean that if we see these horrors, it means that makes us feel that that world is meaningless, because if it was meaningful, we wouldn't have that. Is that?
He's saying I mean that God did not create a meaningless world, because what the ego sees is a meaningless world. God did not create.
Well, I mean the fact that you experience something that's horrifying, that makes you feel that this world is meaningless, because if there was a meaning to it, this wouldn't happen. Is that how these two things are related? You see
Yeah, no, I can see what you're saying.
I mean, God, in this, for me, as I took it from this, it's saying the context, God would not create a world of pain and suffering, and airplanes crashes and people killing each other.
It cannot be included in a meaningful world. It wouldn't be like this. It cannot be there.
It's not God's world.
It's not
God did not create this world. This is what he's saying. God did not create the world of separation.
Okay, I will try it this way then today. I will try to use this version of it, because normally I always say the other version.
I cancel, I believe.
Yeah, I can explain this. It can be interesting to use maybe this version, because like I've always using the other version.
Yes, yeah. They're for me, they're both very, very good. And as I shared before in the group, for many, many years I just used it to cancel my own beliefs, and it was only recently I had this intuition on seeing my mother's oedema in her legs. This voice popped into my head and said, "Dude, God did not create oedema for your mother." So at that point I did that, and within it was a miracle, because within a day or two the oedema was going down, and she actually told me, "Look, the oedema is going down." So she knew, we were connected, and then within a week all the oedema had gone. And so I started, at that point I realized that, I can do it for other people as well.
On the other hand, what he says in that lesson is clear that it's about anything, so that would be very clear that you could say, because that would be part of your horror in your world, is to see your mother sick.
Yes.
That is part of your repertoire of horror. So I mean, that is your God create is sick with mother with this illness here and this. So it is completely included. But it's also clear that the point of this lesson, it's never to get a certain result. That's not why you do it.
No,
like
it's
you
to clear.
You're just doing it to
clear
up
in
your
my world.
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. This was good. I'm happy you read the lesson.
Yeah, it's my favourite. It is my. I talk about it non-stop. It's my favourite lesson.
Who do you want to try it?
Do you want to?
I'm a little bit.
Yes.
You should turn off the camera.
Oh. Do you want the camera off?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Okay.
I don't have such horrors.
Couldn't have any horror. Whatever your horrors are, don't give me anything.
I don't have horror because I've accepted.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah.
If you accept, it's stopped intimidating you.
Yes. I mean, if you fully accept it, it's not there any longer for you. Yes. In the sense, it doesn't bother you. It doesn't take up any space from the piece.
Also, it's for me, God made everything.
Yes.
So the thought that God did not create anything. I mean, it's all one. So I have to have a little bit of, I have to come into this actually, because at the moment
Oh yes.
I look at it from another point of view.
Oh yes. Yeah.
For me, it's all encompassing.
Yes.
The absolute, this, the relative, everything. And it's created by me, God.
Yes. Yes.
Because if there's no separation,
Yes.
then the whole entity is God.
Yes.
And I am the whole entity, or within the whole entity. But if it's only one, then I am the whole entity.
Yes.
So I'm going to have to get used to the concept
Yes.
that perhaps there is a separation, that I am, there is a God apart from me.
Yeah, I think I get where you're coming from.
It was a little bit like I said once. You remember?
said the
That's
same
why.
thing,
That's
yes,
the reason why I choose the other version of it.
Yes.
Because I felt like, well, if God didn't create everything, that's very weird to me. So that was the same feeling.
Yes.
But now I kind of felt, why not just try it? Just open-minded. I can just try it that way without having any. I just try it because, like, the lessons, you just do them, see what happens, like that. So I would just try it just for that reason. But I exactly that's why I choose the other version. I cancel my beliefs because that doesn't make you think that way. That you just
Yes. I also recognize that these assertions, or
Yes.
these, I've forgotten what the term is for them, are very powerful. They do work.
Yes.
The knack is to get something that relates to me.
Yes.
Yes. Otherwise it's not going to be effective for me. So I've got to get into I've got to find, for me, the groove
Yes.
where it's going to be effective for me, where it's going to be meaningful. Now, we're talking about
Yes.
meaningless.
Yes.
So I am having a bit of difficulty.
Oh yeah, no, I think I can understand, and I agree with you as well. It has to have, it has to be held in a certain context, and if at a certain point, of course, doing the Course in Miracles is not. There's no point in doing it because you're beyond all aspect of the Course, the body, the world. The I is no longer there. So it would be like a ludicrous thing to do it at that. And even if, for some enlightened beings, if they had cancer or if they had whatever, you know, if you told them, look, you can cancel it and get rid of it, they still wouldn't be bothered. You see, because it's not anything really for what they are. And so, absolutely. I mean, another way to hold it, as a different way of looking at the lessons, is even if one is not the physical body or nothing in the world, there's no separation from anything in the world. Another way I could say, framing it, like let's say there is no separation and all is God, then they can still be said. You know, it's like, for me, it's like you've got to do something. You know, something's spontaneously going to be arising in every moment. So, if one can't walk, you know, if these thoughts go along meaninglessly, you know, I cancel my belief in not being able to walk. God did not create it. You know, that can spontaneously happen, but there's no one saying it, and it might mean that walking becomes better. Now, or another frame to look at it is like, okay, so this really, all the Course is actually meaningless if there is no separation, there is no non-duality. The Course, it actually, it seems like, why on earth would you do it? So one would have to come down a level, an order. One would have to come down an order. So if there was separation, and if the entity which was believing in separation had a gout and was having trouble walking or having trouble breathing, if there was a little bit of tiny separation that niggled, then one might as well, within the dream, within the illusion of perception, still might as well take it out.
Yeah,
You see,
absolutely.
so, and I think as well, the course, Muji is very direct. Just get to the, let's destroy the eye in 1 minute.
Yes.
The course is more long-winded.
Let's destroy it slowly and take some time to destroy it
It's a
slowly,
good example.
little by little.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the course, but if you're in the illusion, if you believe you're an I within separation, and you've got a lot of problems, then it aids in making the illusion a little bit more comfortable until one reaches full enlightenment. It makes the illusory separate eyes that are not familiar with that all is God and there is no problem and there is nothing in the world that has any power to prevent any realization of full separation. So there are different ways you can hold it. Also, for me, it's like even if nothing's bothering me, but one has got foot pain, it's just even if nothing is saying it, still to say it, and if it goes away, I think it's also quite nice as well, on a certain level. Yes, I totally will. So there's different ways of holding it, so as meaning. If there is anything that, even if it's not creating suffering and there is no duality and it's all God, if it seems it might be nice not to have cancer other than to have cancer in the body, that can be done. But yes, I agree, all is at a certain and the way I sort of see it is that actually when I was very identified with I, one tends to feel very, very separated, and there tends to be a lot of physical illnesses, horrors that are happening in the world. And once one becomes disidentified with separation, then a lot of these horrors start to disappear. And for me, it's like when there's no identification with I, a lot of these horrors completely disappear. Now, if none of them affect you, or even if they're there or not. So it just depends. I think as I understand it, and from Hawkins, is my teacher, he said that these, yes, there is the argument, I don't disagree that God created everything. However, it's like, if you like, the ego's manifestation of holding beliefs is creating these nightmares, you see. So it's stemming out of the separate I. So in the context of God being the pure, this is already dualistic, but a God of light and love and oneness, that being like the realm of, if you like, if God had a will, would be just pure oneness, love and light, unending, timeless, forever, unbroken. Then an idea of a separate I would say in the context, that I has created duality, separation, and the potentiality out of that ego I for separation to exist. So it's holding it in that frame. But if you hold it from the frame that all is God, so there's no point, you see, then it is difficult. I sort of hold it in the way I do it, because when I had the white light spiritual experience, there was no you, there was no me, there was no time, there was no thought. It was just sublime, infinite love, light and power. That's all that can be said. It can't really be described. Now in the dualistic realm of there seems to be something around here and there seems to be individuals over there, so for me it's like describing it as this is now duality, and some things in the duality are uncomfortable. So in that frame, God without ego influence is free of all horrors, but the world of manifest and ego and I and separation is either a shared illusion of horrors or an individual realization of horrors. So those are different contexts in which to hold it so that it can make sense. But of course, if one is enlightened and one is everything, then of course there'd be no point to applying it. Yes.
One is in the illusion. I am in the illusion. I'm trapped in the illusion.
Okay, then I think it has benefit.
So
you haven't convinced me.
because I realise I am trapped in the illusion, and
Oh, that's interesting. So, so you can cancel your belief. You see, the way to use this is like if you go in and out of the illusion, like there is no I, there is no separation, and then suddenly there is an I that has lost the oneness, the non-dual, the expansiveness. So this you can cancel, yeah?
Almost a state of hypnosis.
Okay, so you can cancel, so you can play with it, you can find what will be the angles to cancel, you see. For example, God did not create temporary hypnosis, so it is not real. Or you can look at, actually, I can go into this a little bit more, because of with Muji, you see, it's the identification, the picking up of the I. So it's the re-identification with an interesting thought that then creates the fall into I-ness and duality. So you see, you'd be like, I cancel my belief, any thought has like I would do, I cancel my belief that any thought is interesting enough to create separation, you see, or I cancel my belief in re-hypnotizing, or I cancel my belief that there is an I that can re-hypnotize into the dream of separation. So you find what hits if you like, hits it for whatever is the manifestation of the belief or the idea that allows a sort of a pulling into an individualized I, away from the non-individualized I, or the oneness, you see.
But when it comes to the Course in Miracles, isn't it important to do the lesson? I was thinking that because here we do any lessons like that, to do them in that specific order. Isn't that the point to it, that have lesson 1, 2, 3, or can you take any lesson and pull it out and do it?
You can take any lesson and pull it out and do it.
You can.
It has an order for newcomers.
Yeah, if you have, of course, if you've done it already many times, but if you have never done it from the start to the end.
I think it does have a benefit if you've never done it to do it in order.
So that's
even though, but I don't think, I think once you're exposed to a group for several weeks,
then it's okay.
Then it's okay if you can take any lesson. I think if you were just alone in an island and you had no contact with other Course in Miracles people, I think I would say definitely do it one at a time. But once you've been to an energy field where everyone is talking about, who've been doing it for years, talking about it, at that point I would say you can just pick any lesson and do it, but if you're alone, because you sort of pick it up, when I first, Marianne Williamson was the first person, and a long time ago, Return to Love, and I read it, I was inspired, and there was A Course in Miracles. I think most people have this story. I picked up the book, and it was awful, I couldn't, I was like, I can't read this, it's horrible, I was repulsed by it. So it was like, no, and it took many years, and then the kidney failure, and then Hawkins, when I listened to him talk about it, suddenly everything in an instant made sense. It was like, catalytically, it was like every line made sense, whereas before it was like nothing made sense.
Actually, Hawkins is brilliant.
Oh, you know Dr. Hawkins? Yes.
I don't.
Oh, yes.
I watched him on YouTube.
Oh, yes.
Have you met him?
I met him twice, yes. He's my other prime teacher.
He's, I mean, I go away from Hawkins and I'm elevated. I understand what he's saying.
Yes, yeah. I mean, my personal view, everyone, my personal view, he's the most elevated teacher I know. I love him dearly, along with Muji. Even though he does give the flowery path too, but you can feel from his energy that it's for me he's I don't know of any other teacher, but he's dead now, so I had the chance.
Is he dead?
He died in 2012. Yeah.
That's a shame. Where did you see him?
I went off to Arizona. It was quite hilarious when I shared this story. I don't know why I shared the story. Like Hans, it gave me the DVD of Hawkins, and then said to me, "This is so hilarious." He said to me, "Hawkins is actually in England, in Oxford, and I'm happy to drive you there to see him." And I asked him how much the ticket was, and he said £5. So I said, no, thank you. I said, no, thank you. I regret that. I regret that. I regret that. And then later I knew he was the one. And then because I had got kidney failure on an airplane, I was terrified to fly on an airplane. I'm going to die. So this is true as well. I got in contact with Hawkins and said, I'll bring you over to London. I'll organise everything for you so you can visit. He said yes. And he said he'll come to London. So I organised. I was going up to College of Psychic Studies. I was going up to Alternatives, and I was meeting them, and they all said yes. He was so eminent. And then he decided that he said for health reasons he declined it. So then I had to go. You see, I had to face my fear, and I spent £1,000, on airplanes and hotel fees. And I declined it several years ago for £5. So when Muji was offered to me, I sort of refused it. When Hawkins was offered to me, I refused it. So it was, but he's my, and I put it down to his interpretation of the Course, with all my illnesses disappearing. And I had the lucky grace to actually meet him. Funny enough, when I met him, he had gout. This was really, really funny. He had gout, and he cancelled his belief in gout, and gout left him. And when I met... Yeah.
What's the reason that he changed the wording from God didn't create?
I think he did it to be more atheist friendly, to be honest. Because you see, because most people are so antagonistic to the word God. He created this form. He suggested this form to everyone as a whole, because I think God did not create cancer would antagonize a huge swathe of humanity.
Yeah.
So just to do an equally powerful frame, that more of humanity would be able to release their suffering. So I'm an infinite being is much more palatable than God did not create. So I believe he created that. But in the early days, less resistance.
But so he didn't use the other version that God didn't create at all.
I'm sure he used both. I think. I don't know, but this was the thing he gave out as a thing, and I used it religiously. It also worked. God did not create. I've had miracles with that. So, does that help with different frames of holding it?
It does.
Yes.
How many lessons are there in here?
365. 365 lessons.
Gosh.
Yes.
That's one a day.
One a day, yeah. I don't think it matters when you start. You just start on. What I normally say to people: start whenever. Start on day 1, and next day pick up day 2. Next day pick up day 3. If one is familiar with Muji, they can. For me, then they make. One can get the essence of what they're doing. In the course lessons, they often talk about that one is making form meaningless. You see, so we're entering the realm of the formless, or the timeless, or the non-dual. So the eye is vanishing. The separate eye. So when you start to see that, you know what it's talking about. There is some languaging in there. For me, God, my take on it, God, Holy Spirit, Christ, they're all similar. So it's like the non-dual state. And then the small self, is the ego. So... But the reason I did the course more was for the illnesses, and because for my separate eye, it was quite bothersome. But just to be pure non-duality, I think, of course, for me, my teacher is Muji, and it is from my limited exposure to teachers, Muji's method for me is the fastest method I'm aware of for releasing the identification of the limited I. And quite simply, it's a self-enquiry is to see to ask the question, what am I? And the way I do it is, what am I? So what am I experiencing myself as, you see? So experientially in this moment, am I experiencing myself as a thought? You see, and the thing with self-inquiry is we're getting to recognize the eternal presence that is not limited in any way. So what are the things in the world that pass, and what is always here that can never pass? So it's kind of obvious. Well, thoughts can pass, feelings that pass, feelings that are observed passing, pass, and images pass, memories pass. So all of these are passing. So what is not passing? So by inquiring as to what is currently being identified, and so what is here that is observing all things that can come and go but never goes? You see, so the self-inquiry process is quite simply to then. Now, the thing about going in and out of identification with being non-dual and then suddenly being out of the non-dual state. I mean, that's quite simple. It's quite simple. The way to get out of that is to, you see, so if somebody had experienced that, you know, there was no separate I, you know, all is, or beingness, or oneness, then suddenly the separate I exists. Then there has to be an identification with a thought or with something. And so it seems that there is a loss of the beingness, or the oneness, or the isness. So, but another question to ask is, when one has lost it, one is in the separated state, is what has observed that which was in the non-separated state move into the separated state? What's observing that in and out, you see? So that's one of the ways of seeing it. In also in terms of time, what is observing time pass? See, what observes time pass is timeless. So one unhooks the various aspects of identification with the limited self. I always like giving some metaphors, and the metaphors are not perfect, but it's like, if an object can be seen, there is an observer of the object, which is not the object which is being perceived. So thoughts are perceived, images are perceived, memories are perceived, time is perceived passing. So what observes all things that come and go but is not passing? The other metaphor, which there's one which is quite common, and there's one which Hawkins used, which is, it's like when one is in the limited I, it's like goldfish in a bowl, and it's like the goldfish are the thoughts, and one believes that one is the goldfish, the thoughts which are swimming around, and then one day there's a realization, a recognition that one is the water, you see. And the very, very common metaphor, I think it's a common metaphor, is, for example, if my thoughts are clouds passing, then it's just the recognition that in disidentifying with the identification with the clouds, that one was always the sky, not the clouds. And so one is now in that eternal stillness, space, oneness, isness, or beingness that is always is, you see. So self-inquiry is a very, very good process for releasing. If one is doing self-inquiry on oneself, one just has to see what is the I that is in separation, and recognize that, and then ask what is it, and go to that which observes that, you see. Can I ask right now with you, are you, where are you right now?
But I see myself as the glasses.
Okay. So
So basically, I am the glasses. In reality, I am the whole. And I'm looking for myself. It's like the glasses are looking for the glasses.
right.
The glasses are already in position. They're just part of the whole. They're a small part of the whole.
Yes.
And the small part of the whole doesn't recognize that the whole is it as well. It's like the glasses are identifying with who I am. When I am not, I quite often have the glasses on my nose and I walk around looking for my glasses.
Yes.
That's how I see myself as being. The glasses are already on my nose and I'm looking for something that is already me.
Is there an individual me in this moment?
Sorry, is there?
Is there a separate me in this moment? Right now,
Yes.
in this moment?
Yes, I am me. I am the person that walked through that door, that lives down the road. I'm not the whole.
You're the person now?
I am the person.
Okay, okay. And in this moment, how are you identifying yourself as a person? Are you the body? Are you your thoughts?
I'm the idea.
Okay, so this idea, can you go to that which is observing this idea?
Yes, the space that is.
Okay, so are you the space now or are you the idea?
I'm the idea.
Okay,
But I recognize that there is the space that is always there. When the idea goes, when the image goes.
okay. So we're just talking about this moment now,
Right.
rather than going into a past or a
Right.
future event. So so there is an idea in this moment, or
Yes.
yes, okay. So can you go to what is observing this idea in this moment? So if there's an idea of self, yeah. So in this moment, can you be that which is observing this idea of self, which will be observing it coming and going in this moment?
That again is another idea.
It's not an idea
Yeah.
okay, so if that is another idea, then all of these ideas that are happening now, there is something which is observing all of these ideas. So I'm not asking you to make another mental construct. I'm asking you to see if an observer of all ideas now can be recognized. Is there an observer of all ideas and all conceptualization that is occurring?
In reality, I don't see it.
Okay, yeah, this is good. So what is your experience? So these ideas and concepts are here right now. So these seem to be you right now, these ideas and conceptualizations. Right. Okay. So has there been, there probably has been times when there's been freedom from all concepts, even for a little while.
There is a knowing.
Okay.
One can't pinpoint it. You can't point to it.
No.
But there is a knowing.
Okay. So there is a knowing, and this knowing is not identified with the thoughts or the concepts.
It's all over.
So now, can you recognize the knowing as opposed to be identified in the thoughts for this moment?
Come again?
So there is identification with thoughts and concepts.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So thoughts. So let's say there's thoughts and concepts going on.
Yes.
And there's a field of interest in the thoughts and concepts. so something is something, there is a field of interest in thoughts and concepts. So it's like these thoughts and concepts are, but they're interesting thoughts and concepts. And something here is observing, or is witnessing, or is perceiving these in the now. Something is perceiving these concepts, which is not the concepts.
Yes, and that cannot be seen.
No, and that cannot be seen. And is that a realization, or is that another concept?
That is a knowing. That is a.
Okay, so is the knowing?
It's a feeling.
Okay, is the knowing or the feeling bothered by any of the concepts in this moment?
No.
So then the concepts are meaningless for you in this moment.
To the feeling, yes.
To
the knowing, yes.
Are you the knowing, or are you the concepts? I mean, experientially, I'm not asking as a conceptual idea.
At the moment, I'm the concepts.
Concepts. Okay, so concepts, sometimes there can be lots of concepts, sometimes there can be less concepts. So let's say there's 10 concepts, and then there's only 2 or 3 concepts. These concepts are going on. So, like in a cinema, if there's a movie being projected, then the characters seem to be moving along in the movie. So these concepts are like moving along, different concepts, and different concepts are trying to construct different things, and all these things. However, something here, is there a recognition of something here which is observing the concepts? Can you experience something which is observing all of these concepts, which is not the concepts? Not as in the terms of forming another concept about that, but that which observes all concepts, which is not a concept.
It cannot be defined.
And what is that? Are you saying that as a concept, or are you experiencing that?
I perpetually experience it.
Is that which is experiencing it, is it a separate I, or is it a concept in this moment?
I have no idea.
And that which is speaking now, is that the concepts? Is that
That's a concept.
Okay.
In fact, the concept must have been looking.
Yes. So is there something which is observing the concept looking on any visual? So images, even if a construct is an image, or that image, there is also that which observes the image. The construct's trying to create an image, looking for the right answer. Or is there something here which is observing all the conceptualizations going on, and also the images, and also the concepts trying to create an image? Is there a greater observer or perceiver or witnesser of all of this, which is not any concept or any image?
There is, but that is a concept. There is a knowing. There is a feeling. There's a gut movement.
Right.
That is aware. But
Yes.
But it cannot be defined. It can't be seen. It can't be. And
No.
I'm not there. You know,
And you are the concepts now. He was saying it's not being...
Actually, yes.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Okay. And so there is another way. So can you, for one moment, let go of all concepts?
Right.
Okay. So what is what is happening now? What's experienced?
Nothing.
Yes. So if a concept is brought in, does that what are you? Are you the concept or are you nothing? Does the concept have any power? Do you become the concept when there's a concept?
Not in front of the nothing.
Okay. So are you in this moment? Are you the nothing or are you the concepts?
I am the nothing at the moment.
Okay, that's lovely. So only if there is interest in a concept, then one seems to be the concepts, and the nothing seems to be something else.
Yes.
So it's as simple as, it doesn't mean that one doesn't have to, but concepts are like meaningless. So they do not affect the nothing. If there's no identification or meaning attached to a concept, then the nothing is happening. You see, the concepts have no effect on the nothing.
Yes.
So then that is, you see, so so nothing or beingness or isness is all there is, and it is not touched by any concept, and concepts are not your true identity. Is this seen?
Yes,
Recognized?
it is understood.
Is there any? So now, are you concepts or
I'm
are you
still
nothing?
nothing.
Yes. Okay. So, is there any fear of concepts, or is there any misunderstanding that one is the concepts?
They don't matter.
No, that's right. They don't matter, and they do not affect nothing.
In the state, when you remove all the furniture,
Yes.
it's irrelevant.
Yes, that's right.
But then I'm pulled back to concepts.
Okay, this is good because I was waiting for that. So because this was your question at the beginning, the in and out. One is nothing, and then one is the concepts. So it's very, very simple. So now the concepts, it seems the concepts are dominant. So so to go back, so what is observing? What is here that observes concepts come and go, but is not the concepts?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. So now are you the concepts or are you nothing?
I'm nothing.
Yes. So in the early days there is some vigilance required, otherwise one becomes the concepts again. You see. So one is like the concepts, trying to make a concept of nothing, but then from nothing, then concepts are nothing, and one is not the concepts. So you just clear it out. All concepts are nothing; they're meaningless. They may happen, they may not happen, but nothing is attaching to them. Nothing is identifying with them. It's nothing. There is only nothing.
They don't matter.
They don't matter. So then there is nothing. There is no thinginess. One is not a thing. One is not a concept.
Yes.
So there just is. They happen, but there's nothing hooking or attaching or ascribing meaning. Speaking can happen, but nothing is happening as well.
Yes.
Speaking happens in nothing.
Yes.
Concepts happen in nothing,
Yes.
and nothing is the truth. However, it can seem that suddenly one is the concepts. But the concepts, you see, that's the flip. So you just come out of being the concepts. One is nothing. Concepts do not mean anything. And they do not affect nothing. Concepts do not affect nothing. Speaking does not affect nothing. What is happening does not affect nothing. So there is only freedom.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. But one comes back to the concept again. One can't, one doesn't stay. One is aware of the nothing.
Yes.
One knows. One is perpetually aware of the nothing. But one is not experiencing. But then, of course, the nothing you don't experience the nothing. The nothing is not an experience.
No.
It just is.
The concepts are experiencing the limited self, creating limited self. So, but from the nothing, the concepts are nothing. They're meaningless. They happen, but they do not affect being nothing, or the beingness. So, just to unhook, because you, as I understand it, you were the nothing, and then you became the concepts. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're the concepts again.
I am.
Okay. So.
But nothing is in sight.
Okay. So, can you let go of the concepts and be the nothing now?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. So one is nothing. So the concepts now are meaningless. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. So in the beginning, it requires shaking it off. You could say becoming the concepts is a form of forgetting, or a form of reattachment, or re-interest, or re-identification with the concepts. And then it seems like one is the concepts, and the concepts are trying to find a way not to be the concepts. So then one just shakes it off, you see, or one can see what is observing the concepts, or what is not interested in the concepts, or another way is, in this moment, can I let go of all concepts for one moment, and then one experiences nothing. And then when the concepts come, then there's no identification with the concepts. They're meaningless, and so the nothing. So nothing, or beingness, or isness, becomes continuous. So in the beginning, it seems as if the concepts are quite, they hook one back in to being the concepts again. But so it takes a little bit of practice. There seems to be a little bit of practice in the beginning. But the more one is nothing, then the more stable the nothing becomes. And eventually, concepts become harder and harder to re-identify and believe that one is the concepts. And it's like all concepts start to become meaningless. You see, they just happen in nothing, but they are nothing. So, there's nothing there that is interested or wants to pick them up or remember them or cherish them or keep them as being important. So then, another way is that when one is experiencing oneself as nothing, then it's like it's quite easy to stay as the. After a while, it becomes quite easy to stay as a nothing. See, if one is nothing now, then it's almost like a silent intention to remain nothing. You see, so in the beginning, then you realize that speaking can happen in nothing, talking can happen, concepts can happen in nothing, but they don't affect the nothing. Nothing. One is nothing.
They don't dent the nothing.
They don't dent the nothing.
Yeah.
You see, so one stays as nothing. One can speak, but there's no identity there. There's no concept they're trying to hold on to a concept, or even put any meaning attached to concept. So it's like in nothing, seemingly things are spontaneously happening within nothing, but still nothing is holding on. These things happen, but there is no entity there, or concept there, or field of concepts that is hooking into anything, because everything is just, if you like, happening in nothing, and one is the nothing.
Free floating.
Free floating, yes, that's like flow or freedom, and effortlessness, timelessness. nothing is unburdened.
So who's bothered?
Is there anyone who's bothered in this moment?
Not at this moment.
Okay, so all that can be bothered is re-identification with concepts. As soon as there is re-identification with concepts, it seems that the nothing is something out there that exists, but is not what one is. One is the concepts. So the identity becomes the concepts, which then try to conceptualize everything. So that's, so I forgot what the question was. So how does...
So who's bothered?
No, well,
yes, okay.
It's obvious. Nothing is not. The concepts are bothered. The concepts are bothered. Concepts may be bothered because they're not nothing, or because they're not free, and will try and conceptualize or image make the way out of it. But from the nothing is not bothered by anything.
Nothing is untouched. Yes.
Nothing is untouched and cannot be touched.
But there is this huge feeling of frustration, which I suspect is not, it's a concept.
Yes, so frustration is happening within nothing, yes.
Yes, it's floating in nothing.
It's floating in nothing.
But
So,
I've attached a lot of importance to it.
okay,
I, meaning
your
the concept.
concepts have attached a lot of meaning to frustration.
Yeah.
So in this moment, there is frustration, and the concepts are being worried
Yeah, because I'm back in concept.
by. Okay.
And I feel the frustration in here.
Okay. Yes. So this frustration. So something is there. Is there an observer of these concepts and this frustration which is not interested in this frustration and quietly observing or witnessing or perceiving all of this?
Yes.
Okay. This which is witnessing all of these concepts and this frustration, is this troubled by the frustration or the concept? In this moment, are you the concepts of the frustration, or are you nothing, or the observer?
Well, I'm nothing, but I think I'm the concept.
Okay. So these concepts, so can you let go of these concepts for one moment?
All right, okay, they're gone.
So now what is one now?
One's nothing.
Okay. Is there any problem now?
No, there isn't, not here.
No. Okay. And in now the next moment, is there a problem in this moment?
No, there isn't, not here.
Okay. Is this difficult?
No, because
No. It's effortless, yes.
No effort is required.
No effort is required, that's right, yes. Okay, so now there are concepts. Is it what?
There's concepts, yes.
There's concepts. So
Concept.
yes.
There's concepts. The concepts are worried about
Yes.
the structure. There are three elements.
There's three elements.
There are three elements. There is nothing which is easy to get into.
Yes.
But who knows it?
That's a concept.
That is a concept.
That is a concept of nothing.
The nothing is relatively simple.
Yes, it's simple.
But the concept comes across.
Well, a concept happens, and one identifies with the concept, because that concept seems to be well, Muji would call it a 5-star concept, you know, or of course would call it a special concept, you know. So if you have a concept, the sky is blue, and you're nothing, it doesn't affect nothing. But for you, if a concept still has that pull, then suddenly nothing disappears, and one is again concepts. So it's just another simple concept, but one is hooked in to the concept, and then nothing disappears. You see. So I forgot what you said. 3 things or something.
Yeah, looking for the third thing. The concept comes.
Yes.
Into nothing and saying, well, where's the third thing?
Okay, so that's
who's watching all this?
Yeah, that's a concept.
That is a concept.
That is a concept, which is nothing.
Yeah.
It's good when there's laughing. You see, it's just another concept.
Yeah.
It's nothing. Then, of course, another interesting concept will happen, but this is a special concept. So this one is important. It's also another concept. Concepts can happen in nothing, but concepts do not affect nothing. However,
absolutely, this one comes with a sword.
But this one comes with a sword. That's right. So this is the thing. I mean, actually, concepts are happening in nothing. But then one suddenly is the concepts again. That's because of a special concept. Suddenly then one flips into being the concepts. And then the loss of the realization that concepts are happening in nothing occurs in this moment, fragment. But the next thing that takes you out is just another concept. It's just another concept. But in the early days, one is hooked by these concepts. And then suddenly one again is in the conceptualization. And one is out of being nothing with concepts meaninglessly floating by. So it's just a concept, and one will, you know, it's like the concept will always see if there's any concept left in there that is still juicy or still has a sword or is meaningful, and then suddenly one is again in the field of the concepts.
So perhaps to persist in the hope that perhaps the concept will drop its sword eventually.
Yeah, it automatically does. For any spiritual seeker, at a certain point, the concepts lose their pull to reignite a limited interest in the concepts, and then the feeling that one is the concepts. You see, and then one says one has lost it. One is again in conceptualization. However, those ones start to diminish as soon as one shakes it off and realizes that no, that's another concept happening in nothing. And then after a few times, that has no power. That concept has no. But if there is any concept in there that is still meaningful, it can pull one back into feeling that one is again the concepts, rather than concepts are meaninglessly happening in nothing. And one is nothing. And these concepts are meaningless, and they do not affect nothing. So, and actually nothing can affect nothing.
That is a knowing. That is a concrete knowing. For me, I can see it. I can feel it.
Yes.
That I'm immune. Nothing can touch me. And yet, The guy comes in with his sword.
And has he a sword right in this moment?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He calls me back. But simultaneously I know, there's a knowing that you can't touch me, nothing can touch me.
Okay, so while we've been talking, one has been nothing, and then one is the concepts. And then again, one is the concepts, and then one is nothing.
Yeah.
So this is like going in and out.
I'm oscillating. Yeah.
Oscillating. So there is an observer or a perceiver or a witnesser. During all the time we've been here, there has been this oscillating.
Yes.
One is concepts again, and then one is nothing, and
Yes.
these concepts are meaninglessly in the nothing. So there is now here a perceiver or witnesser that observes the oscillating.
That can see both situations.
That can see both situations. So can you be that which is observing or witnessing oscillation, but is not affected by oscillation?
That's difficult. I can't get there.
That's a concept, you see.
So basically, I've got to try and get to.
It's a recognition. It can't be conceptualized. So
All right. Okay.
it can't be conceptualized.
All right.
So there's a greater seeing.
All right. Okay.
There's a greater recognition of a seeing, in which it seems that there's identification, and then disidentification, and nothing. But this greater seeing is immune to that which can oscillate in and out. So this is also nothing, and in it there may seem happen oscillating, but nothing is happening. It does not affect nothing.
Yes. Yes, and basically it needs to emerge, it needs to be recognized, it needs to
It's
be
a recognition, yes.
it needs to emerge, it needs to reveal itself.
Yes, it reveals itself. And so you now are concepts, is that right? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to figure it out.
So can you drop the concepts?
I can drop the concepts.
Have you dropped the concepts?
No. Okay, I'm there.
Okay. And now you're nothing?
I'm nothing.
Okay. So does nothing if there's oscillation, does that affect nothing?
Oscillation doesn't affect nothing.
Is there any concept that affects nothing?
Shouldn't be.
And now, are you a concept or are you nothing?
I'm nothing.
So,
I'm floating, nothing.
okay. Is there a concept that has power to change this?
No. No, nothing can affect this. There is nothing that can. Impress on nothing.
Yes.
Let's pull back.
So it's just again doing that, you see. But eventually it becomes easier and easier. You see, it's the juicy concept. The juicy concept then reignites the conceptualization. one being the conceptualization.
Right.
But then eventually one realizes nothing becomes more stable, you see, and the more stable it becomes, the less. Well, in the beginning, it seems that as soon as there's an interesting concept, then again one is again in the concepts.
I mean, it's strange because it does vary. It does vary. There are times when
Yes.
I mean, I can go weeks, not weeks, but a couple of weeks perhaps, when I'm nothing,
Yes, that's right.
and then I get drawn back in, and it's difficult to see the nothing after that, or to recognize yourself as the nothing.
Yes, yeah, you get lost into concepts.
Yeah.
One gets lost into concepts. So,
Am I hogging your time? No, it's,
we got another.
am I hogging your time? Do you want to?
No,
Sorry? No, I'm okay.
We've
Thank
got
you. I'm doing it
another-
as you're doing it anyway.
No, we've got another 15 minutes.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to be because I mean,
No, fine. Don't worry. No, it's okay. Please, please.
No,
go
it
ahead.
was
I'm really okay.
we got a little bit more time. Yeah,
Please.
yeah.
I don't want to be.
No.
No,
I'll
worry.
definitely let you know.
Exploiting.
No,
No,
oh, no,
you're
no,
not.
not
No
exploiting.
worries. No worries.
I mean, by
Um,
half past.
um,
Yeah. We've got
okay.
another 20
Thank
20
you.
minutes. Yeah.
Hmm.
I do understand the going in and out of the beginning. It's just an interesting concept. So right now, another way is that these concepts are all happening in nothing.
Yes.
So can you recognize? Can you be the nothing now?
Yes.
Okay. So that's quite easy.
That's very easy, and in fact, you can see them.
Yes, they're nothing. They're happening in nothing,
Yeah.
and one is the nothing.
One is the nothing.
Okay.
One can see.
So it gets easier and easier. You see, one gets rehypnotized into conceptualization, and then my experience has been one has to keep in the beginning on one's toes. You see, one gets back into the concepts. You see, so I found that different things work at different times. So then you see, oh, this seems to be working now. What concepts are happening nothing, and suddenly one is nothing. But that stops working after a while because another concept, it seems to stop working after a period of time. So to take you easily out, then you have to find a slightly different way. What's here, which is witnessing the concept? Oh, yeah. And then suddenly one again is nothing. You see, and then but the more one does it, the more effortlessly there is only nothing, and it seems that the concepts are not so quick or easy to pull you out. But what you share was what I experienced in the beginning. It seemed that, especially if I was with Muji, for a week or two, there would be just effortless beingnessness, effortless nothing, just pure bliss, and then suddenly it would seem that again one is the concepts again. So like a grace unfolds whereby each time one unhooks from the concepts, it becomes easier, you see, and then eventually what you're sharing becomes more obvious and easy to unhook from the concepts. It's like, no, you see, the concepts are happening in nothing. Actually, nothing is happening. It's not important. And then one is the nothing.
Yeah.
So there's a flipping in the beginning. There seems to be
Yeah.
flipping, but this becomes more stable.
But the ego gets wise to the technique.
Yes, that's my experience.
It's like a virus.
Yes, that is.
It becomes immune to penicillin, so to speak, or whatever the bacteria.
Yes and no. I
So
mean,
you have to then
you have to find a different angle.
a different angle.
You need to find it. That's what my experience. So, you know, if it was what's perceiving, after a period it seems that doesn't work any longer, then you know, thoughts are happening and nothing, that works for a while, and then that may stop working, then you find another one. But then with each time you're the concepts are happening and nothing, it becomes actually easier to be, the concepts lose their power eventually. In the beginning they seem to win a lot, then because they're in any you're a spiritual seeker, so eventually the concepts will start to lose their field of interest, and then it'll be easier and easier. So in the beginning it seems that the concepts seem to pull you into conceptualization.
I tell you what, Sabbir, it's the beginning has been a long, long time. I've been at this quite some time, so it's you know, it's been a long time. I don't see it. Sometimes it gets easier, and then of course you regress. I regress, and I give up. And
yes, it's just persistence. It has got much easier for me. At a certain point, you know, one of the things that, of course, I do, like this morning, I was listening to Muji. Actually, the same one that you listened to. That's one of my favourites, you see, because I was fortunate for him to expose a lot of the concepts that I was very hooked into. You know, a tired body and